Hello, everyone. Well, since the last time I spoke with you, it's been over a month, I think, and I've been very, very busy with personal tasks and personal affairs that I had to get arranged before I could make another video. But now I am making another video, and I'm very glad. Um, so I want to start out with talking about Governor Tim Walz. Governor Tim Walz is Kamala Harris's new running mate. They chose Governor Walz to run with Harris, and I guess it's no secret that Harris picked Tim Walz now at this point. It's not breaking news, but just wanted to tell you a little story about Governor Tim Walz. Okay, I did not know Governor Tim Walz when he was in I did not know Governor Tim Walz when he was in the military. I don't know anything about his history in the military, and I just wanted to clear that up, that I'm not familiar with his military background or whether he quit because he didn't want to go to war. I don't know anything about that. So don't hold me liable because I don't know what he was up to when he was in the military. All I know is him as governor, okay? And this is a little flashback. I'm going to tell you a little story, okay? Day 3 of the Minneapolis riots. Day 3 of the Minneapolis riots, the George Floyd riots, when there were angry teenagers flowing over the streets and burning everything in sight, spray painting everything in sight, and breaking windows and stealing items everywhere. In the whole city was up in flames. Okay, the whole of Minneapolis was up in flames. It was mostly angry teenagers, mostly white teenagers from the suburbs that had come to Minneapolis to enjoy the havoc and to take part in the havoc. They didn't care about George Floyd. They were just there to create havoc and break things and steal things and set fire to things. So Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey came on TV. Okay, they came on TV and I don't know if they were there to brief people on what was happening or to reassure them, but it was day 3. Okay, the riots had been going on for 3 days straight, and everything had been burned to the ground, right? Mayor Jacob Frey's eyeballs were as red as rubies, and his hair was tousled, his tie was askew, and his collar was askew, and he looked awful. Mayor Jacob Frey just looked awful. He looked terrible. He looked like he had just been through a meat grinder. And Governor Tim Walz's eyes were red, but at least he was presentable. He made sure that he was presentable. His tie was straight, his collar was straight, his hair was combed, and he looked neat. But he had red eyeballs also, so you could tell that both of them had been pulling all-nighters. And the riots still hadn't stopped. And they were trying to blame each other for it. Mayor Jacob Frey blamed Governor Walz, saying that Governor Walz chose not to call out the National Guard, and Governor Tim Walz said that he was waiting for Mayor Jacob Frey to ask him to call out the National Guard before he would call out the National Guard. So they were trading blame with each other. And then the very next day, they called out the National Guard. And the National Guard rounded up a grand total of 30 people. And just 30 people standing in a parking lot. And the National Guard came in and helped the police round up the 30 people and take them away. In other words, The riot, which almost were 1 million people in the downtown of Minneapolis, 1 million angry teenagers. The riot was basically over by then. And by then, the damage had been done. They waited until it was too late to call out the National Guard. The damage had been done to the entire city. It got wiped out. And these teenage kids were blaming the businesses for what happened to George Floyd. They blamed all the businesses for what happened to George Floyd. The businesses didn't deserve that. And the people who were living in low-income housing didn't deserve to have their houses burned to the ground. Can't remember what these kids did. They set fire to a library. They set fire to a liquor store. They set fire to a low-income housing project that was in development. It was still being constructed, and they set fire to it and burned it to the ground. Just remember what these kids did. Okay, what they did was terrible. They made a total mess of Minneapolis, both the downtown region and the midtown region, and even the uptown region. All the regions of Minneapolis were completely destroyed. Businesses were boarded up, and they spray painted on the boards too. They spray painted everywhere. It was a complete mess, complete disaster. The businesses couldn't afford to refurbish, so they went out of business, and there were a bunch of empty businesses. And then the killings started. Murders. Almost every single day, where there were no murders before. Murders in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Murders. Every single day you heard about another drive-by shooting. And there were a lot of drive-by shootings, and there were shootings of individuals in bars, coming out of bars, shooting at each other. You never heard about that before, and then after the riots you heard about it. And it turned out that Minneapolis, St. Paul wasn't a safe place to be anymore. They weren't safe anymore. So Governor Tim Walz's refusal to call out the National Guard had repercussions that lasted for years and years. And this was one of the things that turned me against the Democratic Party in the first place. I said so long to the Democratic Party when they burned Minneapolis to the ground. I couldn't bear it. I just couldn't bear it. It was such a beautiful city. And they burned it. They burned it to the ground, and a lot of the business owners that lived there were liberals and supported Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey, and they were betrayed. They were betrayed, and they allowed these teenagers to wreck the city. They should have called in the National Guard sooner. Duh, that's obvious. But it was on Governor Tim Walz's watch, this former National Guardsman. It was on his watch that these teenagers wrecked the city. He could have called in the National Guard, and he didn't. And then he blamed Mayor Jacob Frey for not. He blamed Mayor Jacob Frey for not asking him to call in the National Guard, and both of them were ruby red eyes. They were stressing. But what were they stressing about? Obviously, because they had done nothing. They had done nothing to stop these kids. Really frustrates me about Mayor Jacob Frey and about Governor Walz. And so I would just like to say that Governor Tim Walz has got a black mark against him. That was one of the reasons why I turned against the Democrats, because things weren't safe anymore. After they took charge, after they came to power, things weren't safe. They were on the side of the rioters because they knew the rioters were future Democratic voters. But they allowed them to wreck that city. And so I know less about Kamala Harris than I do about Governor Walz. I know less about Harris, but I do know about Governor Walz, and I know that he did this. So just wanted to say that RFK Jr. quit on me. I wasn't expecting him to quit on me, but he quit on me because he wanted a job. Quick hint, RFK Jr., you do not apply for President of the United States so you can get a job. That is a misuse of the power of the presidency to use running for president to get a job. That's shameful. And what he said during his concession speech was shameful. He went to support Trump, and he said that fat people belonged in circuses. Just a snub to me that fat people belong in circuses. This was because, why was it? Why did he say fat people belong in circuses? It was because the elites had it in for me, and they've been watching me for a while. They wanted to snub me however they could. So they made RFK Jr. say this about fat people. I would be a fool to support RFK Jr. now that he's quit and snubbed fat people, wouldn't I? Wouldn't I be a fool to continue to support him? But he said that fat people were freaks and that they belonged in the circus. Well, I guess he just lost 30% of the vote here in America because nobody likes being told they belong in a circus or a sideshow because they're a freak. No one likes hearing that. No one. So RFK Jr. made a tactical error. I think Trump at the last second showed his hand. He doesn't know how to hold his hand in poker. He showed his hand ahead of time, and now we have to decide whether we want him as president, because he said, yeah, let's go over the things that Trump said. He said, I'm going to that I would bomb Russia and China. He said that. He said that he was going to get rid of the vote, that he was going to stop voting in America. We wouldn't have to vote anymore. He would just be in power without voting for him. And he said that he wanted disabled people dead. And now RFK Jr. is saying that fat people belong in a sideshow. They're snubbing me. And RFK Jr., you picked the wrong person to support. You picked the wrong person to support. You picked Trump. Now, during the National Convention of the Democrats, the Democratic National Convention, which I watched it in its entirety. The Democratic National Convention, they said there's only one choice, and it's Kamala Harris. Well, I'm here to tell you right now, one choice is no choice at all. And if the Republicans had come up with a better candidate than Trump, they should have. This should be the end of Trump's career if he doesn't win. If he doesn't win, it should be the end of his career. He shouldn't run again because he's just harming the Republican Party with his constant running for office and constant bids for the presidency. But he'll probably be in a jail cell by then. If he doesn't win the presidency, he'll be in a jail cell. So, that only one choice is not a choice. Only one choice is not a choice. We should, until people here in America vote for third-party candidates and learn to vote for a third party, our country is doomed. We're doomed because we only have the choice of Tweedledum and Tweedledee, the Democrats or the Republicans, and it's no choice at all. It's no choice at all. So, despite that fact, I wanted to share with you that I had a bad dream. I had one of my drowning dreams. I often have the drowning dream where a car runs right off the edge of a highway into water, and there was no context for it. It wasn't even part of my regular dream. It was like my dream had been hijacked by this car driving in the water. And then when I was underwater and floating underwater, a mean voice, it sounded like a demon, said real loud, "Bloodbath! Bloodbath!" And then I woke up and I stopped myself from having the dream. But those were Trump's words. He said that if he didn't win, that he could see that there would be a bloodbath. There would be a bloodbath if he didn't win. And that's enough to turn anyone against Trump who has half a brain, two brain cells to rub together. They can see the handwriting on the wall that Trump wants a bloodbath if he doesn't win. And that's reason enough why he shouldn't be president. So it is with a heavy heart that I endorse Kamala Harris for president, because we can't have quitters in the White House that are just looking for a job. We can't have bloodbath people in the White House that are ready to bomb Russia and China, want a bloodbath if they don't win, and want to stop democratic voting in this country, and even want disabled people dead. That we don't want people like that in the White House. So it's going to be Kamala Harris, even though we were given no choice in the matter, because it isn't a choice. It is not a choice. If there's only one choice, it's not a choice at all. So that's my 2 cents, that the Republicans failed to come up with a suitable candidate for president, and because they failed to come up with a suitable candidate for president, now we're stuck with Trump. And as candidate, and we can't pick Trump. So the only option left is to pick Kamala Harris, and it's sad. I'm telling you, I'm really sad about this, because her running mate wrecked Minneapolis, and they're still getting my vote. It doesn't make sense, but it does make sense when you think that the future of our nation is at risk if we vote for Trump. Our democracy in itself is at risk if we vote for Trump. If we're patriots, we have no choice but to vote for Kamala Harris, because she never said that she was going to stop voting in America and make herself a queen. She never said that. It's only Trump that said that he wanted to be king. He said, "My beautiful Christians will never have to vote again." And that is the end for Trump. He misspoke several times, and it was just a terrible thing that he said, terrible things he said. So that's it. You guys have a great week. Take care. And I'm sorry that I said vote for Kamala, but I'm not sorry, because I had no choice left in the matter.